My name is Andra Hoffman. This is the Doctor of Selfworth, and here we are again on the Heroes podcast. How are you, Payman?
And Andre, brother, I'm doing wonderful. I love talking to you. I love being in your presence. We just vibe so well, and I'm super excited to be on your show. I've had the pleasure of having you on my show. The first episode we did together was absolutely phenomenal. The second one was amazing too. Can't wait for part 3. So always happy to be with you, brother.
Thanks for your time. Well, before we go in, I want to intro you for everyone so they know who we are having on the call, and it's someone special, I have to tell you.
Thank you.
Payman Lorenzo is an Afghan-Canadian global impact maker, collector of success stories, a connector and cheerleader to inspire and empower others to go after their dreams. Over the last 3 years, he's been building a global movement of leaders with a heart who are building purpose-driven businesses to make the world a better place and a more positive place. He's been building an international movement through his podcast and books of the same name, Leaders with a Heart. And I was lucky to be part of that project. So he's a true citizen of the world, having lived in 14 countries. We'll have a separate episode dedicated to that. For today, he's just introducing himself, speaking 6 languages. Payman is currently based in Asia, in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and Da Nang, Vietnam. And that's where he is residing. Thanks very much to come on the show. Do you want to tell us how has this story started? Maybe take us back to your earlier troubles and struggles so we actually know what has happened to you to get to this point.
Well, great question. I was born in a family of travelers. My father was an archaeologist, geologist. I was born in Afghanistan. My father was one of the first people in Afghanistan back in the 60s to get a full scholarship for both his undergrad and postgrad to study in France. So in 79, when the Soviets invaded, communists, they don't like intellectuals. They were rounding up the country looking for intellectuals to make them disappear. And luckily for us, my father at the time was working in France. That was literally our opportunity to save our lives. I actually wrote about how we left Afghanistan in my first book. It was an incredible story. I can share that another time. So I grew up in France, and then I was 4.5, 5 when we moved to France, south of France. And when I was 14, my family moved to Canada. And as soon as I could, started traveling on my own. First South America, Brazil, Argentina, and then Asia, Thailand, Philippines, China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and now Vietnam. And absolutely love traveling. For me, traveling is my religion. Football is my traveling and football are my religions, if you want to put it that way. And I absolutely love. The 3 things I love the most is helping people, inspiring people, and connecting people. I love bringing people together. I love pushing people to go after the dreams. I'm the biggest cheerleader you can find. And when people ask me, what do you do? I don't tell them I'm a podcaster, publisher, whatever. I tell them I'm a collector. Oh, what do you collect? I collect success stories, testimonials, case studies, because that's what I'm after. I want to see. I'm here on this planet to make other people shine so they can win. When they win, I win. So this is in a nutshell what I do. And absolutely, I'm blessed to be doing what I'm doing.
Love it. Do you want to just take us back a bit? Because I'm still catching up with the story that you said. Well, I understand France was an escape, but then
it was not just an escape. It was literally our it was yes, an escape, but also it was a second shot at life. If it wasn't for France, I don't even know I would be here, me and you talking now, because how horrible the situation has been in Afghanistan for the last 45 years. And I've been very privileged to be born in a family that was able to leave way early in the early 80s when I was a little baby.
And how did then Canada came into picture? I understand when you lived probably 10 years in France. Southern France is, it's a pretty good place to be.
Pretty damn good place, especially in the southwest, close to the Spanish border and the French Basque Country. It's called the California of Europe. Our winter is literally 10, 15 degrees Celsius. So I can imagine when I moved to Canada, I was like frozen and all that, you know. But in 94, my mother went to visit relatives in the US and Canada, and she fell in love with it. And she made a mission to convince my father to drop his career and everything. And, you know, women, once they have an idea in mind, they're pretty strong-minded. So she managed to convince my father, and I guess that was the best thing to do because Canada also has been very great for us. So I will always be very grateful. I'm a very proud Canadian. I'm also, whenever I hear La Marseillaise, the French national anthem, I get goosebumps. As I said, football is my religion. When I see the French national team with the anthem at the start, I get goosebumps. I get tears of it really. So that's why I will always be grateful for these two countries. But again, I'm a citizen of the world. Every country. It's my goal to visit every country in the world because hey, the world is a beautiful background, beautiful playground.
Not on every story to have been moving around. It's so much. So then you said you started traveling, and what was your career like? You sort of became an online consultant. How did you even
Oh, it's been
make
like a roller coaster. So I did the traditional style. So I was in Canada. I went to high school. When I went to Canada, I learned two languages. When I moved to Canada at 14, I barely spoke any English. So I learned English and I learned Quebecois. Quebecois is the French they speak in Canada, which is completely different than the French in France. So I did the traditional route, college, get a corporate career. So I spent 10, 12 years in the corporate world in Canada and banking, finance, investments, insurance, automotive, government. I did it for 10 years. In 2007, I was about to apply to law school because, hey, I speak 6 languages. I'm a Libra. I love justice. You know, my parents had already planned for me to be a very successful international lawyer. They were super proud telling people. And then a book changed the trajectory of my life, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. One day back and just before Christmas, 2007, I was working for the local government during lunchtime. When I usually go for lunch, there's a food court, there was a bookstore. I love reading, so I went one day just to see what's there. And this book was calling my name magnetically. Come here, come here, come here. I swear to you, Andre, I spent the entire lunch hour devouring the book. I completely forgot about food. I went back to my office. I didn't do any work. I called the next 2 days sick, finished the book. Long story short, I didn't submit my application to law school to the complete horror and dismay of my parents. They thought I was going crazy, thought I was lost my mind. See, why are you throwing away this beautiful future for you? To do what? I said, just watch. So I started my first online business back in 2008 that took me around the world. I had my first, online business, which is called Tim Ferriss calls my muse. First mini retirement in Thailand, and then Philippines, Brazil, Argentina. Before you know it, it's jet setting around the world. And back then I was a bit young, so I spent most of my time just having fun and partying as opposed to focusing on business. But hey, I wouldn't change it. It was a beautiful experience. Then I came back to Canada when the business, was affected because of not only I was too much in nothing in seriously, but also at the time I was an affiliate. The company that was running the affiliate program, they raised the price too much, and that killed the business. I went back to Canada, get a corporate job, and then after that, I got laid off. I went to China, to Hong Kong, and then I went to the oil fields, working at -40, -50 with rednecks in Western Canada. I did that for 2.5 years. When the price of oil collapsed in end of 2014 or 2015, I got laid off. I went back home to Canada. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm back to corporate, suit and tie in downtown Toronto. I lasted 3 weeks because I couldn't,
behave?
And in the corporate world, you have to work on eggshells. You have to be very careful what you say. Whereas in the oil fields, with me, I'm a very outgoing, very independent. I couldn't. So I said no. So I said, what I'm going to do next? A friend of mine, a Canadian friend of mine, was in China teaching English. He said, talk to this guy, to this agent. I said, I don't want to be an English teacher. I said, just talk to him. I talked to him, and honestly, when I understood back then the power of question, and one question changed the course of my life. We're just having a chat back then. There was no Zoom, no WhatsApp, was on Skype, if you remember. on Skype. He asked me one question. He said, "Hey, do you like so we talked about football because you like football. I like football. I said, hey, can you coach football?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Would you like to coach football?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Okay, let me see what I can do for you." I didn't think much of it. And then 24 hours later, Andrew, I had a job offer in my email list as a football coach in China. I said, "What is this for real?" I was just, scratching my eyes to make sure I wasn't dreaming. The money was very little, but I didn't care. Just to be as my dream, most boys in Europe when we grew up, our dream is to become a football player. I wasn't good enough, but when I get this opportunity to go to China as a football coach, being paid, government pays the flight, you get a free apartment, you get a job, a visa, and all that. I said, oh yes. So I went to China for 4 years, 2 years as a football coach, and 2 years as building a business, e-commerce. I got into e-commerce, building football business in China. It was fun. Then I went to Hong Kong in 2019, and then when the pandemic started, I came back to Canada, and the rest I can get to it later. But that's in a bit my journey. So see, for me, I see life as a buffet, not a buffet to try dishes. I love food. I'm a foodie, but I see it more as trying as many experiences as possible. I see life as a buffet of experiences. So that's why I did corporate world. I prepared for the law test, the LSAT. I did the online laptop lifestyle, location dependent business. I did the oil fields. I did football coaching in China. I did e-commerce. When I was in China, I was hosting events because I grew up in the south of France. I love wine. It's one of my passions. I was hosting wine tasting events and wine education events in China for the Chinese. Plus, I was doing e-commerce. I was hosting, I was helping big 6, 7, 8, 9-figure online sellers on Amazon, both Chinese and foreigners. At first, I was helping them to host events, to promote their events, and then, get to know them. They started to like me. Said, hey, why don't you help us, expand, run our events in your city? I was in Hangzhou, for the people that are familiar, which is where the headquarters of Alibaba is located. It was literally like 5-minute walk from my place. Hangzhou is also the city of Marco Polo. When way back he went, 285 kilometers southeast of Shanghai in the north. I had a blast. I loved it. It was an incredible experience for me on a human level. I made some amazing friends in China and lots of opportunities. But so I was hosting e-commerce events, wine tasting events. And because I like to have people to have a good time at the end, since I lived in Brazil, I hosted some salsa and samba dancing for people to have a good time. So I've done it all. This is me. I want to make people happy. And for me, I want to try all kind of experience. So now, see, I did corporate, online business, oil fields, redneck, football coaching, hosting events, podcasting, publisher now, and only God knows what's next for me. And for me, this is life. I don't want to be, spending all my life just, for example, if I had gone to law school, probably financially it would have been much easier for me, but it would have been a lot more boring. Just one way, go to office every day, 80 hours a week, super stressed. Why? That's not me. I want to see the world. I want to interact with people. I want to inspire people.
Well,
That's my story.
The math that you've been through, yet I didn't tell you, but the oil rigs was on my list.
The which?
But the
oil rigs. Oh, okay, yeah.
Oil rigs. But I was thinking, like, I know there's good money there, but how was your day, or what was the job? I understand it was cold, but do you want to tell us, because
sure,
that resonates? It's something I wanted to.
I found out about the oil fields when I was in 2012. When I came back from China, I said, what kind of job I can get into to make as much money as possible as soon as possible. And I found upon a forum for men about lifestyle, travel, and business. There was one guy that was talking about make 6 figures in 6 months working in the oil field. I said, whoa! I read the entire thing, was like 50 pages. I spent an entire week just devouring the pages. I contacted the guy. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane to Edmonton from Toronto. So I went to Edmonton, met the guy. That was in 2012. But honestly, I wish I had known about this 10 years ago, because there was a lot of money to be made. I knew guys that were 18, 19, making $180,000, $200,000, $250,000 a year. My friend was he was working between April to November, and it was clearing, not making, clearing $120,000. The winter would travel to Colombia, Brazil, Asia,
of course,
and just enjoy life, So what was the day? My job was I was as an NDT, non-destructive testing. You know, when you go to the doctor, you X-ray your hand just to see if there's no bones broken. We were X-raying pipelines, so I was basically a welder's inspector. So when the welder came and did the job, we would go after those guys after they finished and run a film using a camera with radioactive material inside, and just do a shoot, expose it to radioactive material. And of course, this being Canada, the safety precautions were extremely tight. So you had to be very careful. It's not like here. So it was safe. Of course, you had to take so many courses and preventions and all that. So I would be basically, it was teams of two. Me and my level 2, my boss, would go on a truck, would drive to not factories, to places, to the oil fields, oil rigs, whatever, to pulp mills and all that, and just shoot wells. One time I remember I was doing they call it the graveyard shift from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 4 o'clock in the morning. The first day, my boss gave me, in Europe, you guys put chains in the tires of cars in the winter, so it doesn't slip when it snows. In Canada, we don't have that. In Canada, we have winter tires, which allows you to, no problem. But then my boss gave me that day chains to put under my shoes. I said, why is that for? I don't need this. He said, just shut up and take it. I said, I'm okay. So if you don't take it, I'm not going to let you go on the job. Said, okay, no problem. I'll do it. And I was so glad I did it, because once you arrived on the job site, it was minus 30. It was a sheet of ice, black ice. Everything had frozen. With normal shoes, you can't walk 2 steps. Otherwise, you would fall. You would break your legs and your neck and everything. The chains were basically to make sure you don't fall. Just like what the climbers in the Himalayas use in the shoes. We had those kind of chains under the shoes. It was that crazy. But again, it was fun. We would drive for 4 or 5 hours to the job site, go to a place, do the work. It was a lot of fun. Unlike the corporate world, you're working with rednecks, so you don't have to watch what you say. It was very fun, very manly. It's a very masculine environment, and I really love that. So you don't have to watch your mouth, Unlike the corporate, you don't want to offend anyone, But anyways, so I loved it. I had a lot of great time. And my only regret was I wish I had gone 10 years earlier. Because if I had gone 10 years earlier, I would have been set for life. Because there's so much money to be made. Guys were making $2,000, $1,000 a day. It's incredible.
Wow.
But I was able to do it for 1.5 years, 2 years. And then oil collapse, no more jobs. And then went back home to Toronto, and I went back to the corporate, and I lasted 3 weeks. After I said, that's not for me. What can I do now? And this conversation took me to China as a football coach.
Wow. That's such an inspiring story. And you've been able to open up, I guess, to new situations, new invitations, and new opportunities to
I'm a very spontaneous guy. I will tell you one story. Back in 2011, I had just came back from 6 months in Thailand. In early February, on a Tuesday night, my best friend calls me at 11 o'clock at night on a Monday night. He said, what are you doing tomorrow? I thought he was asking, let's go have lunch. I said, okay. He asked me, okay, meet me tomorrow at 10 o'clock at the airport. Bring your passport. I said, okay. My friend works for Air Canada. So he said, okay, I know you can get me a ticket for free. So where are we going? I said, just come. So no preparation, no nothing. I show up at the airport. I said, okay, where are we going? He said, just come with me. I came with him. He gave me the boarding pass. We're going to Narita, Tokyo. Unannounced, no preparation, no nothing. This is me. This is the kind of thing I love. I'm very spontaneous. For example, me going to the oil fields, me going to Hong Kong and China the first time, I've changed my life on a drop of that like this, because whenever there's adventure, I'll be there. Yeah. I'm the first guy to get out the door to the adventure. I'm very spontaneous. So that's who I am.
So what has brought you to what you are doing today? I understand you've done all of these experiences, obviously having fun, being spontaneous, and getting inspiration from these, well, what would I call it, adventures. What has happened to get clarity, or what has been the contributors to figuring out what you are doing now?
That's a great question. Honestly, it's me basically being open to the voice in my head. You know, when you hear that voice in your head, or what you call it, voice in your head, gut feeling, hunches, that's your soul talking to you. And when your soul talks to you, the soul has two purposes. One, to protect you, keep you safe, and keep you alive. And number two, to guide you to the next phase of your journey in this lifetime. Back in 2020, so that's a whole different story. We can talk about that, where that was some of my lowest moments in my life, especially financially speaking, because I had literally run out of money. Do you want me to talk about this to build up how I got to where I am
Yes.
now? Okay.
Please,
So back in 2000, so 2015, 2019, I was in China, football coach, business entrepreneur, and all that. And got into e-commerce. We built a brand on Amazon. I was the guy on the ground going to the factory, negotiating and all that. And long story short, 2 years later, that brand was acquired by an investment firm in Hong Kong. So after I tried to build a business around football, I was working with a friend of mine who was highly connected in the world of professional football. We're trying to, he lives in Argentina, trying to do business with top clubs in Argentina, with River Plate and Boca Juniors, trying to bring into China to develop their football brand in China. We were in an advanced stage of negotiation with those two biggest clubs in South America, that the Argentinian Football Federation, which are the current world champion, got news of that. And that was at the end of 2017, early 2018, just before the 2018 World Cup. So when we heard that the Argentinian Federation was interested in working with us, appointing us as an official representative in China, we thought we had won the jackpot. We dropped Boca and River, which are some of the two biggest clubs in not just Argentina, but the entire world, for those of you that follow football. So we dropped those, we went to Argentina. So I spent the next year, traveling around China, trying to talk to investors to make the project happen, to raise money, to buy the image right. They were asking for $1 million. So I spent a year traveling around China, trying to meet, wine and dine all these big time investors and government officials. So because it was my passion, maybe it was too naive. I was overexcited, over enthusiastic. And long story short, it didn't work out. And as a result of that, I literally ran out of money. And at the same time, there was a raft between Canada and China when Canada arrested the daughter of Huawei CEO in Vancouver on the way to from whatever to whatever. And as a result of that, China starting arresting random Canadian businessmen in China. So I get freaked out. I left China. I went to Hong Kong. I have a friend of mine in Hong Kong who was also Canadian. He built a big real estate business over there. And he said, come to Hong Kong. It's dangerous in China. Help me with your background in e-commerce. We can build a brand and do something. So I went to China on a one-way ticket once again, last minute thing, very spontaneous, and went into Hong Kong. But unfortunately, 2019 was a very bad year to be in Hong Kong because of all the protests. I don't know if you remember. So all the businesses fled from Hong Kong. So it didn't happen. So I spent it, and I had literally run out of money. And if it wasn't for my friend that allowed me to stay at one of his apartments for an entire year, almost for free, I would have been on the street. I was living on $20 a week in one of the most expensive cities in the world, which is Hong Kong. My happy moment of the week was going to McDonald's. I'm not a McDonald's guy, but at the time I went because that's all I could afford. I would get the cheapest item on the menu, which is the cheeseburger. It was like 40 Hong Kong dollars, which is $5 US. And that was my happy moment. Imagine living on $20 a week and you have to make 20,000, sorry, not 20,000, I wish, 20 Hong Kong dollars. 20 Hong Kong dollars, stretch it for a week in one of the most expensive cities in the world. So financially, that was my lowest, but it was also some of my happiest moment because I was hosting events. If you met me in Hong Kong, you would see a guy with a three-piece suit with a hat looking very sharp, but no money in his pocket. Only two people knew that, my buddy and my older sister. My younger sister, my brother, my father didn't know that because I didn't want them to know. And because I had run out of money, my credit cards were canceled. My credit was destroyed. When the pandemic started, I had to ask my sister to buy me a ticket because I didn't have any credit card. I will never forget that day, Tuesday, February 25, 2020, when I landed in Toronto. As a 39-year-old man, I had only $200 to my name, $200. I knew I would get out, but I had no idea how. And then let me backtrack. Even though I was at my lowest point financially in Hong Kong at the time, but it was some of my happiest moments. And that taught me an incredible lesson. One thing I learned over the past few years since I had my spiritual awakening is the tremendous power of questions and asking the right question. When something bad happened to me, I asked the wrong, disempowering questions, such as, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Why? Why is life so unfair? Where is God? And whine like a little bee. And when you whine like this, nothing good comes out of it. But then I understood to ask a much better, much more empowering question, such as, what is this trying to teach me? What is the lesson for me to learn to that? And me being on one hand with no money, but on the other hand being very happy, having a lot of fun, that taught me that I don't need money to be happy. And when you learn that very powerful lesson, not only that I don't need money to be happy, but God, the universe, whatever you call it, always going to bring a situation of people around you that's going to help you overcome that, because God never gives you anything that you're not able to overcome. So when I was going through that, that taught me that I don't need money to be happy. And that made me, when you understand that you don't need money to be happy, you become very dangerous, because nobody can control you. Nobody can threaten you. Oh, I'm going to cancel my contract. I'm going to fire you. No problem. I'm going to call the cops on you. Okay, here's my phone. When you do that, you remove the power from them. Nobody can control you, threaten you, menace you. You become very dangerous. You become, not in a cocky way, but in a very confident, self-assured way. So once I understood the power of asking the right question, this is one of the two most powerful things that completely changed my life, understanding the power of questions. So when I was back in Canada during the pandemic, no money, but I was lucky that I was able to stay with family. I knew I wanted to get out, but I didn't know how. And one day I was having lunch with family in the summer of 2020, completely disconnected from business. An idea comes to my mind: start a podcast. And that's where I started to understand the power of listening to that voice. And that voice kept on coming for a few days, but finally I said, you know what, let me do it. So from the time I heard that voice the first time in the summer of 2020 until October of 2020, when I actually started my podcast, a few weeks went by. But me starting my podcast, that was the single most impactful, transformational decision I've taken over the last 10 years, if not one of the top 3 decisions of my life, that completely changed and transformed my life. And that helped me to go from the lowest to where I am now. That's an overview. Of course, it's so much. This is just an overview, but this is a summary of it.
So what would you say to, and you already talked about one, definitely listen to the voice, your intuition. What else would you say were the critical factors in your transformation, how would I call this, in your rebirth as a podcast junkie? That's not the right word. Like a podcaster and teaching podcasting. What were the other 2 things?
When I started my podcast, I had no idea. I didn't understand it. Sure, I've been consuming podcasts as a listener since 2007, 2008, because I've always loved learning, feeding my mind about inspiring things, because I love to listen about e-commerce, podcasts on e-commerce, on traveling the world, like Tim Ferriss. And back then there was a tropical MBA, for the people who are aware of it, which is building online business and travel around the world with your laptop. Your laptop is your business. So I was consuming a lot of podcasts. So when I started my podcast, I had absolutely no idea how to monetize it. I started for one main reason. 2 reasons. One, because I was bored. We live outside of Toronto in a small town in the countryside, and Canada was one of the strictest countries in terms of restrictions during the pandemic. And half the year you're frozen. So, and I don't watch TV. So I do watch sport, but you can't spend 24/7 watching sports. So I have to find something to occupy my mind. So for me, now I love talking, but back then I used to be painfully shy. And podcasting was one of the things that allowed me to kill my shyness. So I started a podcast for 2 reasons. 1, I was bored, and 2, because there was nothing else to do. I couldn't get a job because no one was hiring during the pandemic. You know, I didn't have the money to buy a car to go to Toronto. So, hey, what do you want to do? You got to do something. So I started a podcast just for these reasons. And then I was having those wonderful conversations with people all day long. From the moment I woke up, from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 p.m. at night, spending like 6, 7, 8, 10 calls a day. And then doing maybe 3, 4 episodes of my podcast a day. My podcasts are long, about an hour. I was just having a blast. And the podcast was also a part of my ongoing spiritual awakening, because I was speaking with all these spiritual, entrepreneurs, heart-centered entrepreneurs. So the podcast has been incredibly instrumental in my own awakening. Not just forget about the financials, just about me finding my voice, my purpose, overcoming my shyness, becoming a better listener, being able to relate and resonate and connect at a much deeper level with people, not just on the podcast or business, but also around me in real life. So this is how I started my podcast. And then once I reach, for the first year, I didn't make a penny from my podcast. I still didn't have a job. I was still broke, as a joke, as we say. No money, couldn't get a job because no one is hiring. And Canada was still as strict as ever. And then the next year, same story. Dinner with family, an idea pops into my head. Start an academy. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean start an academy? And it kept on coming for weeks. And finally, once I started reaching 100 episodes, people started reaching out to me and ask me, hey, can you help me launch my podcast? At first I was, no, just go watch this video on YouTube. And they said, no, I want you to teach me. So, what do you want me to teach you? I don't know. Well, just teach me what you did. At first I was hesitant, but then remember what I said about the power of questions? Then I started asking the people that would get on a Zoom call like me and you, hey, Andrew, do you have your own podcast? Asking the simple question completely changed my life, because 99% of them would say no. When I asked them why, 3 reasons. I don't know how, I'm not a techie, I don't know where to start. And that's when it started to make sense to me. And I said, wait a second. Then I asked them a second question, which completely changed my life. And that was, would you be interested if I were to show you how to not only launch your podcast, but build your own platform so you can share your story, display your expertise, and connect heart to heart to exact ideal audience in order for you to, and monetize it at the same time without audience? Would that be of something of interest to you? I get a resounding yes. I get 6 clients in 1 weekend. This is from someone who had no money. I remember it was the last weekend of November 2021. It was a long weekend in Canada. My father and my sister went to visit some relatives. I didn't go because I didn't have money. I didn't want to be a burden. So I said, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to work. When they get back, my sister asked me, how was your weekend? I said, I just made $3,000. What? I told her the podcast, and she gave me the biggest hug ever. And that's when I knew that, hey, I'm onto something. Long story short, six clients in 1 weekend, and then 60 clients in 10 months. And then 80, after that, I took 6 months off, traveled, and then 80 clients in the last 18 months with a YouTube channel of less than 200 subscribers. Once I understood that, I said, wait a second, I'm onto something, because the traditional way, you as a podcast, you understand that the traditional way to monetize a podcast or YouTube channel, and that is what most people are talking, and God forbid even selling others to do, is build a massive audience and make your money through downloads, sponsorships, and views. That is good, but that only applies to people who have existing massive audiences, or people who are already world-class renowned experts in the field, or celebrities. I was none of that. And when I started, I needed to make money like right now, like yesterday. I couldn't afford, and it would take 5 to 10 years to build an audience for you to make enough money to sustain yourself. I didn't have that luxury. So when I found this out about this way, I said, wow, I need to share this with others. I went into groups, I shared for free, told people, but you know what? No one was listening. No one was doing it because I was a nobody. So who's this guy? I didn't mind because I had found something unique, and I shared it first with in my little podcast and my academy, and then more and more. And this is how things completely changed for me. And now as a result, for me, podcasting helped me in many ways, but most importantly, forget about the money. Number 1, killed my shyness. This is invaluable. Number 2, find my voice, my purpose, my tribe, my destiny. Number 3, made incredible friendships, connections, and contacts around the world, like me and you. If it wasn't for the podcast, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met Anais. She's the one that connected us. Now I have incredible. Now I only do business with people I met on my podcast. My publisher is a lady I interviewed on my podcast 2 years ago. My coach is a guy I interviewed 2 years ago. Now everyone I do business with is people I met on my podcast. So the podcast has completely changed my life in many ways. Now my life has changed. My credit is the highest ever. I have those, black premium credit cards and all that. I live my best life. I left Canada in November 2022. I've been to many countries. Most of the last year I spent in Malaysia, which I absolutely love. And now I'm in Vietnam, and I'm going to go back to Malaysia in the next week or so. So this is my story. And podcasting, when done properly, can be completely transformational, not only for your business, but for your life.
Wow. I was taking some notes because I really wanted to help people have the principles that you shared with us. And I want to summarize it a bit and tell me if I've missed something. So asking the right questions.
Huge.
Shyness, if you have any, or you have a problem with public speaking, make your time useful. So you might be in an environment where you cannot seem to have joy and time that you love. This was one of the factors for Payman to fall into podcasting, and then taking action without exactly knowing what to do. That was same for me as on my podcast. I was sort of fine-tuning on the fly. And there's a massive one which I really resonate with. He was able to use podcasting as a tool for growth, a tool that was, imagine this is almost like free coaching. Like, tell me if I'm wrong, but you could get the right people who could nurture you towards the next version of you on your podcast stage. I mean, how good is that? Do you want to expand on this?
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Imagine that, Andrew, you just read a book, or you saw someone that you admire on TV or whatever, and you would like to pick their brains. If you were to just message them on LinkedIn, whatever, more than likely, unless you're a very famous person yourself, you will not even get a response. But what if you were to reach out to this person? Hey, Andrew, my name is Payman. I'm the host of the Leaders Web podcast. I just read your book. I love it. And I would be honored for you to come share your story on my podcast. Now you get that person attention. There's a 80 to 90% chance that he or she will respond back to you. And the only question they have is, oh, just say when. Because again, podcasting gives you access to people you normally wouldn't be able to. Just you said, free coaching in a way. Yes, you can pick the brains of people. You can build the connection, the trust. And for me also, podcasting has been my own, as if I was able to go on a Harvard or Oxford PhD for free, because I'm talking with all these incredible world-class experts in all areas of life. I learned so much, not only about things I thought I knew, but learning about areas that I didn't even knew existed. Like before I started my podcast, you told me, oh, I'm a spiritual entrepreneur, I would say, stay away from me. You're cuckoo, you're not my crowd. But as I got to talk to them, they opened my mind, they allowed me to expand my vision and all my horizons. I learned so much. I became so much better, wiser. Speaking to all these people, you hear their stories, you learn the lessons, you become a much better communicator, listener, but also you become better, wiser, better, because you have more interesting, because of so many more lessons, stories to draw from. So for me, podcasting, again, forget the finances. Yes, they're amazing. But the greater benefit is the person you become as a result. Let's say you want to have a goal of making $1 million. Sure, $1 million is amazing. But the true wealth, the true benefit, the true reward is the person you become in the process. Because the $1 million, you can lose it. People can take it away. But the person you become in the process, nobody can take that away. Even if they take away your $1 million, with the knowledge you have, your experiences, your connection, you can make that back in no time. So the true reward is the person. The true reward is not the money or whatever goal you have, but it's the person you become in the process. That is a true reward, at least from my humble understanding.
Well, it's very insightful. And I always see people who go through these experiences and sort of nurture themselves and grow spiritually, that probably they make the universe or God their best friend. And that means it's almost like an optimism upgrade where one is, I call bulletproof. Normally it builds self-worth as well as optimism levels, but then I think there comes a point where if someone says no or they are not delivering your expectations, then you will not take it personally. And that's where I believe your personal power is. When you know where you're going, people could come with you or not, you are not slowing down. And
Exactly.
you get the best mentors along the way, probably through podcasts as well. And you
Absolutely.
can create value for you as well as others. And that's what podcasting is able to give people. Do you want to expand on this?
Absolutely. Podcasting is everything because podcasting just opens up a new world for you. Not only knowledge, connections, people, but you become a different person. Like the people that knew me from before that didn't see me, I used to be very shy, very low self-confidence because I have a big nose, no hair. I was very camera shy, and all that. And I was very, very like low self-esteem, no self-worth. That's something that you're very passionate. You work, that's one of your zones of genius. You understand that. And now when they see me, very outgoing guy, all over YouTube, all over LinkedIn and Facebook, and talking with passion. Say, what else is this? What are you taking? What drugs are you taking on? I say, I'm not taking any drugs. I've never touched drugs and I would never will. It's just that I found my purpose, my passion, my voice. I found my reason why I'm here. And once you find your purpose, in the morning you wake up without an alarm clock. You just get out of bed like a rocket with excitement, with passion, with desire. This is what you need because you have the fire inside of you. Because I love what I'm doing. Last week I did a 5-day challenge called the 5-day podcast lead challenge. I was teaching people how to launch and monetize their podcast, even if they have no existing audience and without spamming and no ad spend. Most days I would finish my days at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'd wake up at 6. I was a zombie, but I was loving it. I'm actually sad that it finished because I was having so much fun. It was 8 o'clock in the morning here. The average length of a challenge is about what the coaches are telling you. It should be less than an hour. But for me, on average, 2.5 hours. On the last day, we started at 8 o'clock in the morning, which is 8 p.m. Eastern. We finished at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. And people were still on. They didn't want to leave. I mean, why do you want to kick people out or to end something that is so beautiful? I would have felt guilty because I love doing what I'm doing. I'm blessed. I love listening to people, giving space to people, giving a platform for them to showcase the stories. When I started my podcast, my goal was to showcase art-centered entrepreneurs who are building impactful businesses so we can make the world a better place. Now it evolved to 2 things. One, making you shine brighter that you're already shining. And number 2, helping you identify, embrace, share, and amplify loud and proud your gifts through podcasting. That's what I'm here for. And when you find your purpose, you can do it 80 hours a week. You without an alarm clock, you would do it because that's your passion. That's what sets your heart on fire. That's what makes your soul sing. And once you find that, then a new life opens up for you.
Well, it's very exciting to hear how you've been able to reclaim your true purpose, reclaim your life and
Exactly.
joy and contribution through this process of either doing a challenge or teaching people how to launch their own podcasts. And I think I saw this statistic somewhere that, as usual, like everything else, when people start to learn a language, they enroll themselves to university, there's always that 5% who seem to be consistently going through the whole lot, because most podcasts that are being launched today, yesterday, probably 10 years ago, they never get to, I don't know, probably 5 to 10 episodes, then people just give up and die. Well, it's like anything else. You need to just keep persisting and showing up. But what have you got to say about that one?
Absolutely. There's actually a very telling stat that I read way back 15 years ago by Tony Robbins. It said way back in his book, I think it was the Giant Within, his classic book. He said in the start, the introduction of the book, he wrote 90% of people who purchase books or programs, they don't even go past the first chapter. And that is unfortunately true. I used to be one of those. My collection, my home in Toronto, is full of books, courses, back then you had CDs and all that are collecting. Even some of them are in the basement, just collecting dust. Or even on my computer, my old computer, I had over 2 terabyte of courses that I had bought that I haven't even got past video number 2. Because again, people's attention span is, listen, the last thing you want when you join a program is you get an email, say, welcome, Andre, here's your course. You have 55 videos, each 2 hours. Good luck. If you have any question, get back to us. We'll get back to you in the next 5,000 years. Nobody has time for that. Nobody has time for that. So for me, it's not about that. It's about, it's about helping people right now with things that really need, and understanding the power of time. Time is the 2 most powerful and valuable assets we have. First, your health. 2, your time. If you lose any of those 2, nothing, and I mean nothing else matters. Nothing.
That's very deep.
So
And
once you understand that, then that meeting, that new car, that date or whatever becomes completely meaningless.
well, that's so true. And a lot of people are stuck in those, well, let's say, not so important things. So what's unique about you? And by the way, guys, if you're stuck in this start, stop sort of cycle, when you're not getting things done, you can reach out to any one of us, because probably we will have a way to help you. But what would you say, what's unique about your approach to podcasting, how you are serving people, what they can find only working with you?
The number one thing I emphasize with 2 things I emphasize with people, whether it's on a podcast, my books, and my academy, the first thing I tell them is never, whether you do a podcast with me or not, never speak from a script. Don't even speak from here. Speak from here. When you speak from the heart, that's when the magic happens. That's number 1. Number 2, your story matters. Your voice matters. You matter. The fact that you made it this far in life, that's very powerful. And now it's time for you to share those stories. And what I do is I help people identify their gifts and then embrace them and share them and amplify them loud and proud. Because most people, they don't value their gifts, their talents, their natural skills, because for them it's nothing special. It's second nature. I can't tell you how many times, Andre, after talking with someone for the first time, after 10 minutes, I tell them, oh, wow, this is amazing. This is your gift. You should focus on that. And I've been guilty of that, because for us, there's nothing special. It's second nature. We take it for granted. But that is your goal. Let's say you, for example, I help people understand, so identify, embrace, accept, and share loud and proud. Be proud of the skills, of the talents, of the experiences. Let's say you spent 25 years in accounting, or 30 years in finance, or 40 years in mechanics, whatever. You're incredibly experienced. You understand that field better than anyone. Why would you throw that away? You understand that better than anyone. You speak the languages. You intimately know the pain point. You're incredibly qualified to go and help that person. This is what I do. I help people identify and embrace the true talent, the true zones of genius. Because to have a very successful podcast, to have a very successful, irresistible offer in business, what you need to do most is have clarity into what is your true zone of genius. Once you find what is your true zone of genius, then we can use that and craft an irresistible offer is going to allow you to attract your exact ideal audience, clients, and prospect to your podcast. You will have an irresistible offer, and that's going to make your business successful, very successful. So this, for me, I think this is one of my super talents, is helping people identify and embrace the true zone of geniuses. That's one of the most
Beautiful.
important things that I have, because again, we take them for granted. I had one guy, he spent 20 years as a developer and a big time real estate company for multi-million dollar, even billion-dollar projects. He wanted to become a marketing coach. So why do you want to become a marketing coach? That's very generic. Why don't you go and help people that are looking to get into investing in real estate? Because you understand that. Another person who spent, I had one man. He was married 4 times, divorced 4 times, and each time 10 years. I said, you're the most qualified man in the world to be a marriage and divorce counselor. We can count on one hand the number of people who are more, forget about more, equally or more qualified than you. That's your gift. Why would you throw that away? Listen, 4 marriages, 10 years each, 40, that's 40 years. You're not going to throw away 40 years of experiences. That's phenomenal. But people don't understand that, or rather they refuse to see that. And when they understand that, hey, this is my, everything in life happens for you, not to you. Even the most painful, like we had a beautiful conversation, me and you, 2 weeks ago. When you went through your dark night of the soul, yes, it was very painful, but that's where the true purpose, your true mission was born. That's where you found your true purpose in life, the fire in you. Look into that. This is what I help people to do. Find the true zone of genius.
Oh, yes. It just came to my mind. That's why I was smiling. This guy must have had that exact formula, how to get married for 10 years. No more. How to get married for 10
I hope
for
he
10 years.
understood. I hope he didn't lose it everything,
Then, of course, so obviously, I'm happy to help him to get over that 10, 15-year mark. But
Yeah.
that's my last question. And then obviously we'll move on to another interview about the travelings and living abroad. But
Sure.
tell us how to find you. If someone wants to engage with you, every detail will be under the video. Just if you want to tell us your website or how to follow what you do.
All right. The best way to reach out to me would be my Facebook profile. You can put it in the link, as well as my Calendly, my LinkedIn, even though I'm building my LinkedIn right now. My YouTube channel, Leaders with a Heart. On YouTube, again, Leaders with a Heart. My books, same title. Actually, my second book is going to be going live on January 31st, which is tomorrow. Here it's Tuesday, so tomorrow is going to go live. So my books on Amazon. My website, I have a website right now for my academy, which is I'm rebranding it. It's called leaderswithavoice.com. Leaderswithavoice.com, but the new one is gonna be called getclientspodcasting.com. So getclientspodcasting.com. And yeah, I think the best way to get a hold of me is on my Facebook profile or LinkedIn. Even though I'm not as active on LinkedIn, most on Facebook, shoot me a message and I'd be happy to. And I would love to get on a quick meet and greet call to get to know you, understand your business, and see how we can leverage podcasting for your business. And also, why not maybe showcase you an upcoming episode of my podcast to share your powerful, inspiring, empowering, and goosebump-inducing stories. So this is the best way.
Well, that's how it started for me. And looks like now I'm in payment circles, and probably I'll need to learn to expand my business on new levels of success, new levels of satisfaction, maybe making more impact. Because I think you should, and if you're running a business, you should be looking at expansion and taking your results or let's say solutions to more and more people. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was wonderful. If you have the last golden nugget to tell us, probably that would be the last.
2 things. One thing I think nowadays, if you want to really stand out in today's hyper-competitive world of business, especially online, the rule of the game is, there's a cheesy line in real estate, which is location, location, location. After living and doing business around the world for the past 15 years, I realized something similar. I call it the rule of the 3Ds: differentiation, 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 meaning what me and you and every business owner, every professional, whether you're a car dealer, a carpenter, an accountant, a doctor, or even selling hot dogs or croissant ice cream down the street, what can I do that's going to elevate me from being seen as just another person doing that to being seen as an expert, an authority, a leader? That's a question to ask. And one of the most powerful ways to ask that, to reach that, is this: start your own podcast, because your podcast will give you your own platform so you can share your story, display your expertise, and connect heart to heart with the exact ideal audience. Because once you connect heart to heart, there's no need for you to sell, to pitch, as I like to say, in a funny, cheesy way, to seduce or kidnap someone to do business with them. Hey, what do you do, Andrew? I do X for Y. Hey, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Can you help me? Sure, let's set up a time to talk. That's number one. Number two, your story matters. Your voice matters. You matter. The fact that you've made it this far in life, you overcame all kinds of challenges and crap. That's a story. That's a beautiful story, powerful story, inspiring story, goosebump inducing story worth sharing and telling. We all understand, one last point, we all understand that life is a school. We come here to learn, grow, and become better, wiser, and all that. But from my humble understanding, that's only 5% of why we are here. The 95% is taking those gifts, those lessons, those wisdom, and sharing them with others. Because all the things we go through, they become our story. Then our story becomes our gift. Then our gifts become our duty and responsibility to share them with others so we can all collectively rise and make the world a better place. That's my understanding, my humble understanding since my awakening of why we are here, is to collectively inspire and help each other rise. There's plenty. The pie is way too big. For me to win, I don't need you to lose. I win, you win, he wins, she wins, we all win. So let's win together, let's grow together, and let's make the world a better place together by sharing your story, by identifying identifying, embracing, sharing, and amplifying loud and proud your gifts through podcasting. Signing out.
Actually, okay.
Did you get it? Listen, Andrew, it was absolutely awesome. Thank you for inviting me. I absolutely love it. You asked some incredibly good questions. It really made me think. And I hope I answered your question without going on big tangents and all that, so, and I hope I provided value for your audience.
I really needed this story out. And as I said, we'll expand it into this other episode where we look at living in 14 countries, because that's probably not enough for one episode, but I would want people to
14,
hear that.
not 40. 14, 1-4, not 40.
Yeah.
Soon
Yeah,
is
that's
going
what
to get there, hopefully.
Yeah. Thanks. Loved it.
Very welcome. One of the countries on my list is Hungary, especially Budapest. So I have a friend now, which is you, so you can give me some tips when I get there.
Let me know when you're around.
Absolutely, brother. Same here when you come to KL, okay? Take care, my friend. Cheers. Bye-bye.